You're watching the New Stack Makers, a podcast for people who develop, deploy, and manage at-scale software. For more information and articles about at-scale technologies, please visit thenewstack.io. Now enjoy the show.
The Cloud Native Computing Foundation, or CNCF, hosts critical components of the global technology infrastructure, including Kubernetes, Prometheus, and Envoy. CNCF is the neutral home for collaboration, bringing together the industry's top developers, end users, and vendors.
Hello, and welcome to another on-the-road episode of the New Stack Makers. I'm your host, Heather Joslin, Editor-in-Chief of the New Stack, and today we're at KubeCon plus Cloud Native Con North America in beautiful Atlanta, Georgia. Today we're going to talk about a decade-old open source project that you're undoubtedly very familiar with if you're familiar with Kubernetes, and that's Helm. Helm celebrates its 10th anniversary in 2025, and we're going to talk about what's led to this point and what's new about it and what's next. And joining us are two people named Matt, who have been involved as part of Helm's story since the beginning. First of all, on my right is Matt Butcher, CEO of Fermion Technologies. Hi, Matt.
Hi, great to be here.
Glad to have you. I've interviewed Matt on previous occasions, and I've come to think of him as our returning champion. So
that makes you the contender. I can take you. I can take you.
Let's see. Matt, briefly, what does Fermion do?
Fermion, we're building the next wave of cloud computing using WebAssembly. We built an open source project called Spin that is part of the Cloud Native Foundation now. And it is a tool for developers to build serverless functions using WebAssembly, and then we provide an enterprise system for executing those on top of Akamai called Fermion WASM functions.
Excellent. And we'll also be joined by Matt Farina.
Yes, hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. He's Chief Architect of Cloud Native at SUSE. So
thank you.
Hi, Matt.
Hi.
So
you now have to enumerate all the things SUSE builds. Yeah.
SUSE should be very familiar with anyone who works with Linux and Kubernetes at the enterprise level, but Matt, can you give us just a brief description of what SUSE does, if anyone's tuning in and doesn't know?
I mean, SUSE is one of those technology companies that's into a variety of things. We've been around in the Linux space for more than 30 years doing, enterprise Linux distributions. Mm-hmm. And so we've got that enterprise Linux history, but we also are into Kubernetes, and we've got Rancher to manage Kubernetes clusters. We've got RKA2, so we do a lot in the Kubernetes space and the surrounding ecosystem, whether it's storage or security and cloud native. And now we're into things like AI and edge and combining these technologies to come up with solutions for customers in kind of the complex business world.
Excellent. So we got a lot to talk about, so let's just get into it. So Helm, for anyone who doesn't know, is a package manager for Kubernetes. How did it come about, and what problems does it solve?
So it's kind of a fun story because I was working at a company called Deus at the time. We were building a platform as a service that was designed to be like the open source alternative to something like Heroku. Mm. And we were doing an all company offsite in Boulder, Colorado. And to kind of have a little creative time, we all broke up into teams of 3 and did a hackathon. Mm-hmm. And at stake was a $75 gift card. Mm-hmm. So we were all, highly motivated to get that $75 gift card. And so we all got to kind of pick our projects and build something that would be attractive as, potentially some kind of new thing in the open source Kubernetes. Kubernetes was just kind of emerging at that point. It was 1.0, 1.1 time frame. And so my team of 3, we decided we wanted to sort of build the NPM of the Kubernetes world, a package manager for the Kubernetes world. So we worked for a couple of days and pulled, late nighters and early mornings, and we built this package manager thing called Kate's Place, and playing on the K8S idea, and it was a coffee shop themed package manager. So it was all about, I think we were calling the packages shots or espressos or something like that, and you could install and update and delete and that kind of thing. So that was our entry into the hackathon. We won the hackathon, so the 3 of us got to split that $75 gift card 3 ways. I spent mine on coffee, as I always do, and that I thought was going to be sort of the end of it. Well, the next morning, I went back to the office for just a regular day of work, and I sat down at my desk, and within 10 minutes, my phone rang, and the CEO and CTO were on the phone, and I'm like, these people don't usually call me. What's going on, right? And they said, so we want to talk about that hackathon project you did. And I said, okay, yeah. And they said, we think this idea of a package manager for Kubernetes is just the right thing at just the right time. I mean, Kubernetes was just gaining momentum, and nobody was doing anything like that at that point. And so they said, why don't we just give you a team and you can go build it? And I said, that sounds fantastic. I would love to do that. They said, just one thing. We really hate the name. We really don't like it at all. We think you should go find something that's more nautically themed. Yeah. So Jack, one of the other guys on the team, Jack and I sat down with a nautical dictionary and just flipped through, going back and forth, reading terms to each other. Should we call it mast? No, that's not catchy. Sail? No, not really catchy. And Jack's telling of the story is simultaneously we both said Helm. In actuality, Jack said Helm. but that was kind of where we came up with the name, where we came up with the project, and we just sort of plowed into it, and it just started gaining momentum from there. So that was like October of 2015. Yeah. And Matt, whom I've known for a long time, was one of the earliest non-Deus contributors on Helm.
Yeah. So I've known Matt for years, and he's like, I built something new. Come check it out. Within days of it, showing up on GitHub.
Contributions welcome.
Contributions welcome. So I'm like, another open source project. That's Matt's doing. Great. He suckered me into a few before. It's not the first package manager he's pulled me into. And so I started making contributions shortly thereafter.
Very cool.
And these days, Helm went through sort of this process of becoming part of Kubernetes. Then as CNCF sort of matured and split out into a process of separate tracks for projects. We were one of the first projects to break out of Kubernetes and become a separate project under CNCF, and then kind of saw that go through a number of cycles. And Helm 1 to Helm 2 we did very quickly, and then it sort of solidified into a big project. I think we were the third project to graduate.
Something like that.
Fourth project to graduate.
Very early one,
So, so we've kind of grown up alongside Kubernetes and alongside CNCF, and we announced it at the first KubeCon.
Oh, wow.
So alongside KubeCon as well. So this is a fitting place to have a conversation about 10 years in Helm 4.
Excellent. And then, and Helm 4 has been rolled out at this conference.
Yes, actually, so we had the session earlier today, and we launched Helm 4 during the session. We took it live.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been out for a matter of hours now, and we've been working on that, actually coding on it for just about the past year, making the changes needed. So Helm 1 to Helm, the first Helm was around for a matter of months, and then Helm 2 was about a year. Then Helm 3 was 3 years. Yeah. It's actually been 6 years of Helm 3. Yeah. And so after a while, you get some design debt, things like that. People get crazy ideas you never envisioned in the past that requires to make some breaking changes in a major version. And so we've been working on Helm 4 for a while now, and we had the fun of launching it here at KubeCon.
That's awesome. So what are some of the new features and aspects of Helm 4?
Sure. So one of the simplest that actually links into things that Matt has been doing for years is, for a while we wanted to do plugins in a different way. Helm has had this plugin system, and kind of like Git, it just kind of executes out to the file system, but we run on a lot of operating systems, Linux, Mac, Windows, and then a lot of architectures. It's not just ARM and Intel. We've got like 5 or 6 different Linux architectures that we support now. So if you're going to write an extension for that, you need a way to make that portable, right? And so we've kind of churned on different ways we could make it portable over the years. Nothing ever fit. Everything else was, okay, we're going to twist and contort something. And then this WebAssembly thing came along. It became really, really popular. And so in the last year, we figured out how to make WebAssembly-based plugins for Helm. So instead of something that executes out to the file system, which we very much still support, it's now built on WebAssembly, the technology he invested in, and he had nothing to do with it. It's just become big enough that it's become a natural way to do things.
Yeah, that was a fun one too, because we've always had this belief that WebAssembly was going to be that kind of plug-in architecture of the future. And the fact that it just sort of naturally fitted right into what the Helm requirements were, that makes it my favorite feature of Helm 4 as well. But that's not the only big feature.
No, I mean, there's lots of things, because we did it so long ago. the logging system inside Helm, because Helm's both a client you can go out to, but others build upon Helm, right? Flux, Argo, over at SUSE, we've got a number of internal systems built on our software development kit. And it was architecturally designed 6 and 7 years ago. And things like logging in the API, the Go community, the way you do things have just radically changed. So we did a lot of modernization to the API, and we're using things like slog, so that way all these logging libraries that applications can use can now cleanly integrate with logs coming back from Helm when they integrate it with their own applications. And so that, that modernization effort. And another part of that modernization effort is, the charts, the packages that you install, the structure for those was designed, 6, 7 years ago. And Kubernetes has evolved a lot in that time.
Yeah.
People have thought of new ways of doing things. The dependency system inside of Helm is rather rudimentary, works really well, but we've got some neat ideas, and some other projects have kind of tried to take that a step further, and we wanted to too. And that required some fundamental changes to be able to do. So we made those fundamental changes to allow us to do it. So we re-architected the internals so we can start in 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, start rolling out some really new nice features around charts and the packages to enable people who are installing applications to have some really neat new ways to control the way it's installed.
And I think that part of the sort of untold story behind the maturity that a software project hits at a particular time is that, in the early days, you're trying to figure out what features you need, right? And we were trying to build something that was package manager then. And of course we nailed it, right? We kind of figured out, okay, well, we just follow this pattern that all these, and then we had sort of a set product with a set number of features, and we weren't really sort of growing into new features or brand new ways of doing things. And that, I think, is a virtue of a lot of these highly successful open source projects, is they do one thing very, very well, or they strive to do one. In our case, we've striven for years to be a really, really good package manager for Kubernetes. And it's kind of fun to listen to Matt talk about these features, because so much of the real work now isn't so much defining or redefining what package management is. It's saying, okay, in an ecosystem that's as rich as this giant conference is now, right? What are the features that are going to help people get stuff done in more effective ways? And suddenly things like logging, which is, back when we created Helm, was like, oh, well, that's the boring thing that we're not really going to think about. Now it's like, well, if we can build good logging, then the integration with all these other tools will be more uniform. It's going to save platform engineers and DevOps folks a lot of time and energy. And that's kind of, to me, the things that used to feel very boring are now the things that are like, oh, I can see why logging is such a key thing, and why looking at the way Kubernetes is evolving and try and make those subtle changes to the way that Helm interacts with them. That's a time saver, a money saver. It might not win any awards for fanciest, flashiest new feature, but it certainly makes a very real difference in the lives of the Helm users.
Yeah, and one of the questions I actually get regularly is Helm going to expand into these other spaces like configuration management? And I think one of the things that you all set it up really well for was to say it's a package manager, because people argue a lot over configuration management and the tooling that they're going to use. By just staying focused on this one area and letting other areas focus on theirs, we can play nice with Terraform and Argo and Helm file and Flux and everything else out there by trying to do that one thing really, really well and focus on that, and let others focus on their things well, and we can become an enabler for them.
And so Matt, as the release engineer and sort of de facto keeper of the Helm flame, spends a lot of time thinking hard about which of these features is going to introduce more risk, which one's going to, how do we be more accommodating for the rest of the ecosystem, and which things put us on a dangerous course to having yet another thing that we'll just have to maintain for a long time and might not be the most useful thing for the system.
And it's amazing what people in the room, so we launched it at a session. There were 2 features we talked about in the session that everybody clapped for. One of them was color in the output. All right? I never would have thought that.
No.
And then the other one was reproducible chart builds. So you can package a chart over and over and over, and it still has the same SHA, the same digest. And those were the things that got people excited, quite frankly. And so when you look at this space and what can help elevate others and push them to that next level with what they want to do, sometimes it's very, very boring things. When you think about it, it's not some new shiny thing, but a lot of people get excited about it.
Yeah. And it can be surprising sometimes what people what really is the thing that actually makes people's jobs easier. Or not unlike Kubernetes, Helm has had ardent fans and detractors over the years. Sometimes people said that Helm chart management isn't always user friendly. Default settings can be insecure. Do these new features alleviate some of those pain points?
So some of the new features will hopefully alleviate some of the pain points, but when people have criticisms of things, this is tooling discussion amongst developers. We're always going to argue. Look at us, Vim or Emacs. Look at, when you get into GitOps.
Spaces or tabs. I mean, we can't even agree on the things we can't see.
Yeah.
Yes. So, there's a lot of the arguing ends up being around that.
Yeah.
And so for us, I think we target what a lot of people want to do, right? The majority. If you want to get into the really advanced cases, we don't focus on those as much. We want to enable that 80%. How do you make that 80% successful? And that 80% who may not be the greatest, they're not fully invested full time. They don't, you walk around the conference, there's so many different booths. There's over 200 projects in the CNCF. There's a lot of complexity in that. And a lot of people don't understand all of that complexity, especially with the high percentage of new people who come into this ecosystem. How do you make that 80% successful and what they have to do? And how do you help other people build on top of Helm and help them make a large number of people successful? And when we focus on features there, we're not going to get everybody's feature. We're not going to design things in that nuanced way that an expert might want.
Yeah.
But they can actually go build their own tooling, and we're helping a lot of people. And I think if we focus there, then that's that sweet spot that's made Helm successful. And in a tooling debate, you can never make anyone happy. And if they're complaining, at least they know you.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, one of the things you learn when building a project over this period of time is that you're going to have to pick between sticking with a narrow vision of a way things could work and trying to do your very best in fulfilling that, or trying to kind of cover everything and inherit sort of the mediocrity that comes with that, right? Because you just can't do everything well.
Right.
And I think we did take a couple of missteps fairly early. I think Helm 2, the division between client and server ended up being sort of gratuitous. I think we tried to do a couple of things that were just sort of reaching beyond our skis early on. And that was sort of what led us back to saying, as a core guiding principle, this is a package manager.
Yeah.
So we've got to, and I have seen many cool projects that compete in one way or another with what Helm does. And early on, every time I saw one of those, I'm like, oh, we could have done it better, right? It is kind of developer stubbornness. And over time, it's become really the opposite thing of saying, well, wait, I mean, we should like look at those, find their strengths, point people toward them when they're saying we need a system that does this, right? Yeah. But then to the credit of Matt in leading the Helm 4 project as a whole, like building the plugin system was a huge step toward making it easier for people to extend it when it made sense for them to extend it, whether it was creating an open source plugin that they're going to share with everybody, or whether it was creating a bespoke plugin that only their organization is going to use. And so I think, he's done an excellent job as a release maintainer and sort of finding that right way to balance the extensibility and the blossoming needs of an ever-growing community with the core principles of this is a package manager for Kubernetes that's going to act this way and be reliable and be stable over 6 years in this last case, and maybe 8 or 10 this next time around. I don't know.
And one of the nice things with Helm is we've got so many, I'll say, maintainers who've been through the ropes who understand this. So when it comes to designing a system, they can say, okay, this needs to last. We understand what enterprise customers want. We understand their cycles can be a bit longer than sometimes anybody really likes. Right? And we understand that's support. And so we can work well together and figure out how do we do something maintainable and try to keep that going for the long haul.
Yeah.
So is there any, now this Helm 4 may last for quite a few years, it may not, but what are, if you're thinking about Helm 5 at some point, what might be some of the things that would
and even between 4 and 5, the new chart format.
Yeah, so between 4 and 5, we've already got some new things that the new architecture is going to let us introduce. So our charts are versioned, API versioned, and what's currently out there and what everybody's using is API version 2. We're going to introduce API version 3 in the coming months. And it'll start out as an experiment. You can enable, because then we can make breaking changes. We can try something, get feedback, make changes to it, get feedback. And once it's ready, then we can unleash it on everyone. But the architecture changes will let us do that. So we've got things like that that will be coming in the months. We're going to change up a little bit around the release process and start signing with cosign, which is something we haven't done. We still use PGP signing, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we've got some things we know we're going to introduce along the way to just try to continue to improve the experience, because Helm, with its minor releases, we like to introduce features and we like to improve on things along the way. A lot of the changes with Helm 4 were enablers where we were getting stuck with things we wanted to do. Now we unblocked ourselves so we can do features in some new directions. And so that will come. Now when it comes to a Helm 5 someday, that's probably years off.
Okay.
And I've got some ideas in the back of my head, but they're all that boring infrastructure-y stuff, that like the Flux project, right, with doing their GitOps, they're gonna be like, ooh, I can use that, right? It's stuff like that that comes along that might, that gets people interesting, that we think of with future iterations.
So I also want to ask each of you what's new at your companies. Start with Matt Butcher. What's new at Fermyon?
Yeah, we've had a busy season here. I mean, in addition to the Helm 4 release, which really Matt has taken mostly care of, Spin made it into CNCF earlier this year and has been humming along as a sandbox project. We got our first ever project pavilion this week.
Oh, great.
So that was very exciting. And a brand new release came out this week as well that introduces support for WebAssembly 3.0 and WASI P3. So we're kind of part of the mission of Spin has been to stay on the forefront of the ever-evolving WebAssembly front and introduce the features and provide sort of something like a reference implementation along with WASM time for being able to take full advantage of these. So that's been a really exciting open source moment. And then at the last KubeCon, which I think might have been the last time we talked, we had just launched a brand new product called Fermyon WASM Functions. Right. And it was running on Akamai. It was an edge-based solution. And when we launched, we launched on 2 regions, one in North America, one in Europe. And over the last 8 months or so, it has just kind of exploded. We've onboarded a bunch of customers. We've gone from 2 regions to 24 regions, all spread all around the globe. We're capable of handling tens of millions of simultaneous requests on this framework now, and so we're announcing now that it's in GA with all the uptime guarantees and all and global coverage and global support. So that's been a really fun ride for us, and I'm very proud of that one. That was very nice. That was a dream that turned into reality that then grew up very, very quickly. So we're really excited about that.
Nice. Excellent. And what's new at SUSE?
So, within our cloud native line, I think maybe the big highlight thing that I think of is we've actually added AI to Rancher. And so you can now interact with it. When you're navigating Kubernetes clusters, you're trying to figure out what's going on and how you want to do it. We now actually have, an MCP server. We've got an assistant. We call it Liz, which is short for lizard, because the SUSE, the SUSE chameleon, right? We've got a lizard, so it's Liz, short for lizard, and you can interact with that to navigate your cloud native experience to figure out how do you manage it easier. Because we try to make the complexity as simple as we can, and really the AI agents enable us to take that a step further by helping you figure things out without having to know anything. It can highlight things for you, get actions done more quickly, and all that interaction. That's one of the big new things that we're showing off, and it's AI, which shouldn't be a surprise in this market.
Liz is a great name. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. And I just want to point out to anyone who's watching this on video, Matt Butcher's totally not drinking a cocktail at 2 in the afternoon.
It's lemonade and strawberry.
There's a lemonade bar here.
No gin.
Thank you both for joining me. It was a pleasure. And thank you to all of you for joining us for this conversation. This has been Heather Joslin for the New Stack Makers on the road at KubeCon in Atlanta. We'll see you next time.
If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, you can always subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on all the major social media platforms. You can always find us at thenewstack.io. We hope to see you soon.